Welcome back to the Plus Money Podcast, your home for the best EPL bets in 15 minutes or less. We have a huge weekend upon us. We've got massive rivalries in top leagues. We got top four clashes in several leagues. We've got Atalanta versus Inter, Leverkusen versus Leipzig, Bilbao versus Atletico, Lille versus PSG, and England's biggest derby when Manchester United take on Liverpool, the battle of two bald Dutch managers this weekend. I'm Andrew Passaro, and joining me this week is Andy Chase. You can follow him at AndyHH Sports, a great follow for Liverpool, NBA, and MMA content. And he has a new website out, happyhourhoops.com. Andy, welcome onto the podcast. Really appreciate you giving us some time. Scale of 1 to 10, how excited are we about Chiesa signing with Liverpool in the morning?
Andrew, I am absolutely juiced to be here, man. It's long overdue. Appreciate you having me. It's a 10 out of 10, man. It is a 10 out of 10 for me. Not our typical Liverpool signing for sure. I doubt that the analytics team that we have and really like to flex in the athletic articles, they love talking about it. I doubt that he's one that's really flying off the charts, but it is definitely timing the market, right? I mean, this guy went for a huge sum just 2 summers ago. So I'm pretty happy about it. I think it's a low risk, high reward signing, which in this market I'm cool with at the forward position.
I saw someone reading on a ton of his like take-ons, dribbles, like passes into the final third and in the box, and apparently he was in like the top 2 or 3 in Italy last season. So I'm very excited about that. His health, he played 33 times in Serie A last season, which was a concern for me. And frankly, as someone who supports Italy as a national team, I would love for this guy to recreate that form from Euro 2020 with Liverpool. And the fact that he's not going to be the starter, he's very much going to be Salah's understudy. I think all of these are great points and a great number for Liverpool. Tell me about the website, and then let's get into the bets.
Yeah, my website's really focused on NBA content. It was something I was unable to focus on my previous venture. You may know me from Happy Hour Sports. So one thing I'm really excited about it is I get to finally talk about fantasy basketball, which is a true passion of mine. And obviously, everyone knows that I cannot stand a day without NBA content, man. I'm all over the NBA every single day talking about it, living, breathing hoops. So whether it's any angle of basketball, this outlet's going to be able to give me kind of that place for to spread my creativity and spread some love, as well as to encourage conversations with all of y'all. So be sure to follow me on Twitter, and I'll be able to keep y'all up with any updates that I have with the site as we get this thing rolling.
Pumped for it, my man. I am always trying to bet a little basketball more, watch more hoops. I don't really have a team because the Wizards are awful, but definitely looking. I'm always down for a good game. Speaking of good games, we're going to start early on Saturday. Arsenal are taking on Brighton. Brighton, kind of the upstart so far early in the season, getting that late winner against Manchester United last weekend. They're going to go to Arsenal, the big and mighty Arsenal. Big test for them early Saturday morning, and I like both teams to score and over 2.5 at plus 100. This Brighton offense has really impressed me. Yes, the Arsenal defense has been excellent so far, but I do think Brighton can get on the score sheet in this one. I kind of expect an Arsenal win. So based on that, Arsenal and both teams to score, if it's over plus 150, I absolutely think that's a great number for you. I'm just going to stick with the both teams to score and over 2.5. But I do think that will be a fun clash early Saturday.
They've definitely surprised me so far this year. I thought that we were going to see a little bit of regression come from last year as well as the year before where they absolutely showed out. And I do think that this is going to be the true measuring stick of like, even if they lose to Arsenal, if they're able to keep up, then it's like, all right, top half is absolutely in play. Are we looking at a top 7, top 8 potentially in play for them? So this is what I'm super excited about, and we'll definitely be up bright and early Saturday to be watching it.
Yeah, I feel like I'll catch the second half. We'll see. We'll see about 7:30, but we'll the second half for sure. Leicester City take on Villa. Villa, a good performance, bad result last weekend as they fell to Arsenal at home. Their money line at minus 135 here. It may have shifted, but at minus 135, this Leicester team, I think they're going back down regardless if they get a points deduction, which is heavily rumored. But if you want to get a plus number, Villa and over 1.5 at plus 100 is great value. We're going to go back to the well, which I hit last weekend. Morgan Rogers, 3 shots in the game at plus 170. We got him 2 shots last week. It's at minus 185, which is a great parlay piece. He's hit 2 shots in both of his games so far, hit 3 shots against Arsenal last week. The fact that he's this involved in this offense in a game that I think the Villa will be on the front foot, 3 shots at plus 170. Mind you here, these aren't on target shots. These are just volume shots. I think we can get that number at plus 170. But if you just want to take it and add it into a weekend parlay at 2 shots at minus 185 is great. Shout out to one of my listeners who loves to tell me about his Leicester bets. The last time he talked to me about a Leicester bet, he told me Leicester weren't going to score against Tottenham. And Obviously, they scored and Jamie Vardy did the thing, but I'm going to give him a try here. He's telling me that Leicester give up a ton of corners. So Villa over 6.5 corners at plus 122. It's a high number, but I do expect Villa to be on the front foot, be in control of this game, and peppering a keeper. So over 6.5 corners at plus 122, I think is solid. I think you could also probably take over 9.5, over 10.5 corners for value here. Anything else you'd like in this one, or do you want to jump elsewhere?
I don't have a play on this one. Sometimes, and I'll talk about it a little bit in the Brentford game, but sometimes when these money lines sit anywhere from -110 to -150, it always just feels like a freaking trap, no matter what. It always does. And to me, it's either Villa or Brentford feels like the trap game this week, at least for the Saturday slate. However, I do love your logic, and I do think that the Leicester result was an absolute fluke against Spurs. Like they really did just catch them at the right time. And Spurs offense, I'm not really high on at this moment in time. It looks like they're a bit lost. So totally agree with you with your logic there. I do think that Villa is the side if anybody's going to take a side here.
You've got something from the Everton game on Saturday.
I do. So heading into the season, kind of with Bournemouth, my initial thoughts with the Solanke departure was that who's going to score the goals for this team, right? I really don't feel confident in their goal scoring ability. And it turns out my assumption is correct so far because they've only scored 2 goals in 3 matches so far to start the season. Everton, on the other hand, are just getting blown out left and right. So speaking of offense, none to be found for them either. I do think that the injury to Jared Branthwaite hurts a lot. And it's clear that the Michael Keane Tarkowski duo is just not really holding up whatsoever. I just do think that it could be enough against Bournemouth. And we're sitting here staring at a total that's 2.5 for 2 teams that absolutely despise finding the back of the net. I do think that Everton also has defensive upside despite like the 3-0 and the 4-0 start that they've lost to. They did allow the 4th best number of goals at home last season. So in 19 matches at home, they only allowed 18 goals, which is insane. That they were just short of Liverpool, Arsenal, and Man City, the big 3. So I do really like Everton and Bournemouth to go under 2.5 at plus 102 on the Plus Money podcast. Got to get a plus money play, right? So I think that this is one that, like you're saying, you may miss the first half of Arsenal Brighton because it's so early. You can miss the whole game with this one. It's going to be an absolute snooze fest.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And the only way Everton are staying up is if they make Goodison Park a fortress like they did last year. So, yeah, that one screams snoozer. And I mean, look, let's go to Brentford, Southampton. I got a fun stat for you. Southampton haven't scored a goal yet in the Premier League. The last 3 head-to-head matchups between Brentford and Southampton have ended with one team winning in a shutout. I'm going both teams to score no at plus 122. I hate to give out both teams to score no, but I don't know. This one just kind of screams Brentford controlling the game and getting the win. Their money line, like we mentioned earlier, it's right around minus 135. I don't think I'm going to take it myself, but they should get the win. I really think Southampton are going to finish in last place because, frankly, I look at the moves that they've made and I'm really underwhelmed for a team that, yes, they did win promotion by winning the playoff, but they haven't done much since. And there's no one coming through the academy, or like all the young signings that we're seeing that are exciting in the Premier League are on the South Coast at Brighton, not at Southampton. Yeah. So I know I would love for Adam Lallana to keep his boyhood club up, but I just don't think it happens.
Yeah, I was super impressed with Brentford after the 2-1 win versus Palace. I'm super high on Palace this year. I think that there's a chance that they are able to finish top half of the table. And after the first 2 games, that is still a bet that you can take. However, back to this game, I do think that Brentford also looked dangerous against us, against Liverpool. There were several moments where like Liverpool just would not grab the game whatsoever. And Brentford was going in and luckily Allison saved us and the defense like looked really solid. But when they were able to go through, I mean, they looked really good against us. I do think that they bounced back against Southampton to the point where I am going to be taking Brentford money line at minus 135, which I got that one on FanDuel, Fanatics, ESPN Bet, wherever. Like it's on every book. I don't anticipate that one moving too much. And then I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle here on team total over 2.5 at around plus 250. I got that on FanDuel. It's around plus 220-ish everywhere else. I'm with you. Like both teams to score no feels good. I think I'm going to go ahead and lay that for the full unit, but for a sprinkle plus 250, like why not? Like I really do think this is where they're going to be able to showcase the offense, and it's at home. So as opposed to your Villa pick, where I was a little worried about being away, they're at home against a newly promoted side. So give me Brentford and team total over.
I have a fun sprinkle team total over 2.5 later in the show that I cannot wait to talk about. It's when we get to Europe. It's
I'm
when we get
ready.
to Europe, not in the Premier League.
Okay.
Sunday we have two. I mean, the Chelsea play, but we're not talking about it. We have two big games: Newcastle taking on Spurs, and obviously Manchester United Liverpool is the big one. Um, let's talk about Newcastle Spurs. The last 9 times these guys have played, the over 3.5 has come through 7 of those times. It's hit in the last 5 games at Newcastle. The over 3.5, this is a ridiculous number. It's at -110. I'm still gonna play it. Um, I kind of see this one as like Tottenham need to break out. Newcastle got a winner in they won in the Carabao Cup today in PKs. They've kind of looked okay. They had the red card in their opening game, which kind of differentiated things. Personal challenge, I'm going to lay the over 3.5. I'm not going to lay a full unit on it, even though it's at -110. But I do like the Newcastle money line at +150. They've had Tottenham's number for a while here. It's a long trip up from London. I'm not buying Tottenham yet. I know they bashed Everton last week, but like it's Everton. It was their home debut. Um, I would like to see Tottenham try to do something in this one, but Newcastle money line at +150 at home in a big game, coming like I said, coming off a Carabao Cup, winning a shootout. I'm gonna ride with Newcastle here. Very ready to get burned, but I think they can do it in this one.
I'm actually opposite sides of both of you. I didn't end up taking Spurs, but that was my lean. I do think that Newcastle has looked absolutely flat to start this season. They had a terrible start to the year where, I mean, the only reason they won 1-0 against Southampton to start the season was on an absolute fluke. In my opinion, they had like 0.25 XG that whole game because they got the red card for Shar, and then they had to just sit back the entire game. The next one out, then they almost lost to Bournemouth over the weekend too. Like that ending was insane for that game
Yeah.
on Saturday, or maybe that was Sunday. I can't remember. I think that was Sunday. And they only had 1.69 XG on 14 shots. And then again, like they just barely scratched by in the Carabao Cup. Like this offense cannot figure it out whatsoever. But I am going to back them defensively. And here's why. Like this, again, I was talking about Everton's defense at home. Newcastle's right behind them. They only allowed 22 goals at home last season, which is good for the fifth best defense at home. I do think that Spurs also are having a bit of an identity crisis because they were really banking hard on that Dominic Solanke signing. Now he's hurt. So I'm not a huge Brennan Johnson guy personally. I think he's a great creator. I don't know about his goal scoring acumen personally. Spurs are fresh off of that 4-0 destruction of Everton. I do think that that was a bit fluky because now they're going to be going up against a defense that, although the offense hasn't been clicking, the defense has been fine for Newcastle. They've done all right. And even though there has been tons of goals in recent memory, I totally agree with you. That part scares me as much as you taking the over scares you. I really think that we're due for kind of a snoozer because neither of these guys can figure it out. And I would rather bank on what's happened to start the season rather than to hope that one of them break it out here. You can get under 3 goals at +143 on Bet365. For me personally, I'm going to go under 3.5 just so I can get that extra cushion of 3 goals going in. And then it's only -110 in most spots.
Everything you said, I totally agree with. Let's jump to the big one. Man United taking on Liverpool. Liverpool 2 wins, 2 clean sheets, 2-0 victories. Manchester United, the late winner against Fulham, and then concede a late winner against Brighton. I'm going to ask you this because I looked it up. Do you know what Mo Salah's record against Manchester United is?
I would guess off the top of my head, only 2 losses.
Oh, I don't have win loss. I'm saying like goal
on scoring.
Goal numbers.
Oh God, it's got to be close to a goal a game. There's so many iconic moments he's had.
It is in fact a goal a game. He has 14 goals in 14 appearances for Liverpool. He did play Manchester United once. He was with Chelsea, but he's scored in his last 6 appearances at Old Trafford between EPL and some FA Cup appearances, which is insane. And I don't know how him anytime goal scorer is +125. So he's scored in the last 2 games for Liverpool, been in the right place at the right time, scoring that second goal. So I love him anytime goal scorer. That's probably my favorite prop of this game. The other thing I weirdly lean here, I kind of lean under. Liverpool have controlled games very well, and I think Manchester United are one of those teams under Ten Hag that when they play their best ball, they generally play on the counterattack, and they will get the opportunity to do that against this Liverpool team. So I feel like the defense for Liverpool is really going to be tested for the first time this season. But with injuries, I do have questions if United can truly test them. The under 3.5 at -128 is really good value, like really good value, because we've seen Liverpool peppered. They peppered Brentford. They really peppered Ipswich in the second half. Kind of haven't seen Liverpool like fully dominate for 90 minutes. They've been in control for 90 minutes, but they haven't dominated for 90 minutes. And I don't think that's going to happen at Old Trafford. Under 3.5 at -128 is great value. Under 2.5 at +185 I think is a very interesting number. I don't think I'll end up playing that. I also don't hate Liverpool 19 shots in the game at +120, just because they did get that number off against Brentford, and I do expect United to still kind of sit back and absorb the pressure, and maybe Liverpool start kind of taking shots from distance. But this slot style doesn't really play for that. They want the smart pass that opens up the right shot rather than the chaos of Klopp ball. But I still think Liverpool will take a lot of shots. What are you thinking for this one?
Yeah, I'm with you that I do think we're going to get a lot of shots off. I think my angle here is similar to yours, but at the same time, a bit different. I'm leaning in even further into under. So I haven't been overall impressed at all with Manchester United, period. And I do think that while we've looked good in the second half of games, the first half for us has looked kind of slow, a bit hesitant, a bit reserved. So with that being said, my favorite play of the whole weekend is Man United and Liverpool under 1.5 goals in the first half and -138.
Oh, that's
And I
great
found that one
value.
on FanDuel. Yeah. I found that one on FanDuel. Man U has only scored in the first half against Liverpool once in the last 2 years, as well as both teams have not scored a goal in the first half yet this season. And kind of putting the trends aside, like what I was saying earlier with Man United, I'm not at all impressed really with them at all. I think that they're really trying to figure stuff out. They just seem disconnected. Like they just don't look, and I know this is not really a real stat or anything, but like they just don't look happy to be out there when they're playing. And I do think with Liverpool in those first halves, as they continue to learn Slot's system, they're really figuring and feeling things out in the first half. They're not really opening up play. They're not really forcing the ball forward. And I think that they're a bit nervous to be playing so deep out of the back as they have in the first two games, where we've already seen them slip up a couple times out of the back. And that's going to be something as Liverpool fans got to get used to in this system. That is my favorite play at under 1.5 goals in the first half. But you can also just take straight up under one. You get the insurance if they allow a goal in, but it's at +168 on Bet365. So I love that as well. I've taken both of those. And hey, I mean, I love your play of solid to score too, man. I
Yeah,
absolutely love that.
I think you just have to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's such an incredible record against them that it's like you have to. All right, let's jump to some European action real quick. There's so many great games this weekend. I have a lot of plays, but I'll put out some videos for them. Really quick, Lazio are taking on Milan. Lazio team total over 1.5 is +152. I know that Lazio attack is not great, but Milan have been absolutely fraudulent to start the season in Serie A. Probably my favorite non-EPL game of the weekend that I'm really looking forward to watching is Juve versus Roma. Juve have been so good. You can get them to win Serie A right now at +280. I think I'm going to put that ticket in because I've seen what Mata has done through 2 games. Yes, they played nobodies, but he hasn't even integrated his actual big money signings. He's just playing Juve's kids, and they look miles better and miles more fun than last year. Juve team total over 1.5 is -104. Their team total over 2.5 is +340.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
Here's the thing. You go look up Juve versus Roma. It's a lot of 1-1s, 1-0s, whatever. There hasn't been a ton of goals. However, Malta is coaching against De Rossi. He beat them with Bologna 3-1 last year in Rome. This Juve team, I think, has better attackers than, and I loved that Bologna team last year, but I think there's higher ceilings on this Juve team right now. I definitely think they can hang 3 on Roma, and Roma has looked absolutely fraudulent so far. Juve and over 1.5 in the game is +120. Juve and over 2.5 is +195. So I love Juve in many ways this weekend. Another quick one: Leverkusen taking on Leipzig. Both games last season ended 3-2 with winners by Leverkusen. The over 3.5 at +132 doesn't make sense to me. We saw Leverkusen get into an absolutely crazy game against Gladbach to open the Bundesliga last Friday. So over 3.5 in a Leverkusen game at a plus number is a gift. Uh, Leverkusen team total over 2.5. Like I mentioned, they scored 3 on Leipzig both games last year, so their team total over 2.5 is at plus 200. That's a great number. Leverkusen in over 2.5 at plus 130. I think again, I'm gonna ride with Leverkusen in over 2.5 in every game if I can get it a plus number until they
Yeah.
lose in Germany, because they haven't lost in Germany, and so it's like over 50 games at this point. That's kind of really it that I'll talk about here. I do just want to mention Sporting versus Porto this weekend. Sporting money line at minus 125 is great. And speaking of a Portuguese player, João Neves for PSG has 4 assists, hasn't played a full 90 minutes in either of the 2 games that he's played for PSG. Came on in the second half of the league opener and played about 60 minutes in the second game. Like I said, already has 4 assists. So anytime assist this weekend against Lille is an amazing play. He has he's slid right into that team. He looks like he's been there for
Yeah.
years, even though he's like 18. Sporting
And they
team
need
total.
it.
Yeah,
They
they
need
do.
it.
Well, their midfield is like all teenagers, and they're all just gonna run football in like 3 years. It's gonna be
Yeah.
disgusting. Um, I do have the beginnings of a both teams to score parlay of the weekend. I think it's plus 143 right now. Valencia, Villarreal, and Leverkusen, Leipzig, both teams to score in both of those games. Like I said, it gets you to plus 143. I'm trying to find one more leg to get that over to plus 200, so I'll tweet about it or post a video about it. You can follow me at Andrew Passaro, and I'll get it for you guys. Anything out there? Anything European you like for the weekend, or are you focusing on the Prem?
I'm locked in on the Prem. I'm still getting up to speed on everything top 5 leagues personally, but I do feel like I have a pretty solid grasp on what's been going on with the Prem. Really kept up nice and close this summer, and I mean, just was dying for any type of action for the last several weeks. We're finally out of the dog days of summer now, so a lot to be excited about with footy on the horizon, and we got the draw coming up on Thursday for Champions League, so super excited for that.
Yeah, we'll have the international break, and I think I'm gonna try to do a video series on some teams that I'd like to go far in the Champions League. Once we have the draw fully ready to go, and once we get the quiet of, it's actually kind of nice that we have the first weekend of NFL without soccer, where
Yeah.
I can fully do football, and then we'll deal with the integration. But thanks for hopping on, my man. I really appreciate it. Once again, go check out all of his stuff. Go check out his Twitter. Go check out his website. His Twitter bio has been above his video the whole time in the YouTube, but it's at AndyHH Sports. And hopefully we'll get him on again here soon on the show as we get ready for the dog days of football, as now that it's back.
Yes, sir.
Best of luck, everybody, this weekend. Appreciate you following. Appreciate you watching. If you could hit that subscribe button if you're not subscribed, or that follow button on Spotify and Apple, whatever. Appreciate it. We'll catch you in a couple weeks when we're back with club football, and we're getting ready for Champions League and getting ready for Europa League and all that fun stuff. Like I said, best of luck this weekend. Let's stay positive. We'll catch you soon.